First thing we're going to talk about Bella getting yelled at. No, I'm kidding. Um, that's your cold open for the show. We'll have to mention it. But yeah, welcome back to Right as Rain, your weekly Seattle Rain FC podcast slash show slash thing that maybe things will yell at me about in the comments here on Circling Seattle Sports. Charles Hamaker with you as always, with bunches of little friends. Oh, Kelsey isn't visible. Oh, that's a shame. We need rain bobbleheads. Why don't we have rain bobbleheads? Of course, Bella Munson here. We do not have Becca, our third host. Some scheduling stuff, like I mentioned, I think on one of our other shows. Scheduling is tough when you work with so many people and you talk about so many sports, right? So, Bella, kind of a shorter show today. Just a couple not a bunch, a couple signings leading into the preseason, and of course, we've got the first day of camp was today, Monday, January 20th. As the club, I think, will spend the week here before they go down to Coachella in much better weather, as Laura Harvey remarked to us before training started. So we'll look at the two signings. I mean, both you and I, on and off camera, expected the announcements of deals for Maddie Mercado, midfielder Maddie Mercado, and Lou Barnes. We'll talk about them both. We've talked about them both, and this can obviously be short. The one thing that I'm interested in with Mercado, right, is that it's just a 1 year deal. Um, and it's not to say that Maddie absolutely deserves to have, this massive like 3 year deal or anything like that, anything long term per se. I just find it interesting because she is a player that they drafted last season, seemed to have a good stretch from summer on when she scored in that match against Tijuana, and then obviously scored the club's in the final match of the regular season against Orlando on the third. Very limited sample size, but I find it funny that, well, not funny, but interesting, that a player that they selected 27th overall last year, just a 1 year deal. Do you have any thoughts on that being a shorter contract?
I'm not particularly surprised about it being a shorter contract. I think more than anything, it gives them flexibility in the off season. With the new CBA, you can't waive players, you can buy out their contract, but they have to basically be out of contract for you to fill that spot with someone else. And
Yeah.
I think they were they perhaps could have done more this offseason if they didn't have some of those contracts still hanging on. I think that's been a situation in previous off seasons. So I think more than anything, she gets a chance to prove herself because you're right, it was a really limited sample size. I think there were some good things we saw from her, but we also saw good things from Olivia Athens and we saw more of her.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
part of it is I think her position that she plays is maybe we're still looking for scoring threats. But I think the 1 year deal for Mercado makes sense. It gives them some flexibility in terms of they don't have to bring her back if she doesn't sort of improve or go up to the standards that they feel she needs to be at in order to be in the league. Um, I think I mentioned it last time, like Emily Mason, the Rutgers
Mm.
defender, is also on a shorter deal. Um, Laura said that she coached her with the U20s, I believe, and so she knew her that way, but that's still, a 1 year deal compared to Maddie Darlene's three.
Mhm.
So I think there are these players they really like and they've seen good things, but you just don't really know. And if the market for them isn't super, super competitive, they're
Yeah.
not gonna, if no one else is gonna offer them a longer deal, then I think a 1 year deal makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And that, it's definitely not something where I'm like, wow, why is it, like this is a mistake, but at least like I thought it was interesting just to have the 1 year, but you make the good points of them getting flexibility for Maddie. It's an opportunity. Hey, maybe I show out well, and then maybe I do have more of a market next off season, right? In the press release, Leslie, General Manager Leslie Galmore. Hi, Leslie, who followed us on Instagram after our last segment last week when we talked about her comments, and we saw her today. Um, in
And her
her
dog.
and her dog, yes, Shadow, who is as blind as they're, getting some stuff done. So I hope they're getting their home safe and stuff and all that, and poor Shadow can. flop his little ears around and, and walk around. Um, yeah, and the quote in the release that we get as media, our fans caught a glimpse of her incredible potential, and we're confident that her sophomore season will be even more remarkable. Those are big words. So they obviously, that's my thing with, and I talked about this in the two episodes before this on this show about how, they drafted her for a reason. I'm sure I've asked Laura about her after a game at some point, or someone did, right? So, and I thought that was interesting. Yeah, Lou gets a 1 year deal, which again we figured would happen. Do you have any thoughts on this? Obviously, we talked to her um during availability at training today. Again, I just figure this just seemed like the most obvious outcome this off season. Like there's just going to be another 1 year deal. Um, I thought the chances of her hanging it up were small. I mean, it's a possibility, but I thought they were small. Do you have any thoughts on Lou or anything that she said to us today?
It definitely seems like she was perhaps considering retirement a little more than she has in the past, just because of the injury that she had last year.
Yeah.
She talked to us in her availability about kind of having to go through some rehab and figuring out with the team if she was going to be okay to play, if it was really going to make sense for her and for the team. Sort of talking about it being a long process, but like we got there. So obviously, I'm not surprised she re-signed with the Reign. I'd be shocked if she went anywhere else to finish her career, especially while Jess Fishlock is still at the Reign. But I think, we've talked to her several times about,
Hmm.
um, you know, she sort of has a conversation with her friends and family every off season about continuing and about when to retire. And she's not quite there yet, thankfully for the Reign. But it does seem like, she's consistently been giving herself 1 year deals at this point to kind of give her that option and not push her body further than it needs to go and not take up a roster spot that she feels like she won't really use. But I'm really excited to see her particularly mentoring, Jordan Bug more. I mean, I thought Jordan Bug was so freaking fantastic last year. I'm so excited to see more of her. Um, Madison Curry and Shea Holmes can still
Hmm.
learn from her. Then you got Emily Mason too. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
she said she's feeling good. She said she's, good to play. Hopefully the sort of long preseason helps with that and she doesn't have injury issues again this season. Because she's been pretty injury free for most of her career, so it was kind
Yeah.
of
I mean, you don't get those
unusual.
accolades without being, pretty healthy. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, no, I was talking to a colleague asking if anyone was even close to the amount of minutes she's played. She will, you know, if everything goes well, be the first player to hit 20,000 regular season minutes played in the NWSL, and no one is even close. Like no other player could even possibly hit it this season, even if they played every single minute.
yeah.
Like that's how far ahead she is of everybody. Her experience, her talent, it is so important for the Reign. And I think, while it is a rebuild, I think the most important thing, not the most important thing, but one of the really important things is that all of the values that her and Megan and Jess have embedded in
Mm,
this club are
yeah.
really taught to those young players before they retire. Because I don't think we have that many more years left of them, if we have more than one, particularly of Jess.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that we get to see that duo together one more year. But yeah, I'm just happy to see her back.
Yeah. I think you make some great points, and bless Bella because she has to hear my complaints all the time, largely about our women's teams here in Seattle with the storm and the rain. But I saw some comments after roster decisions were made at the end of the year, right? About how, they should move on from Barnes. She can't really play anymore. I was like, I'm not going to start swearing right now. And at least in this part of the show, that's ridiculous, ludicrous, blasphemous, whatever you want to use here. It can be your little Mad Lib. Like, there are so many times where Bella and I will be in the press box because we sit together. Normally she's to my left. And I go, how does Lou Barnes continue to make these like picture perfect tackles? Like it as someone who did play as a center back growing up, like I would have loved to learn how to do that. Because maybe I'd still be playing, probably not. You know, and yeah, you talk about the experience. I've talked to Lou several times about that you know, her leadership, right? And that culture is always something she talks about. And we've heard other players, Bella, right? Like Veronica Latsko has talked at length about how the Reigns you know, community culture has been so big to her in her career as someone who kind of bounced around a little bit and never really, well, not never really, that's a little disrespectful, but didn't stick, perhaps, you know. So yeah, and like you said, I think I talked to Lou about Jordan Bug at the end of the season as well, and she mentioned how excited she is for Jordan to just continue her, you know, ascension. And it's already remarkable to talk to you, but to Bella's credit, she talked my ear off about Jordan Bug, and for good reason, right? Like, you know, Bella knows what she's talking about, you know. So
A big
yeah,
fan of
um,
good center backs, and I feel like it was after her first tackle, I was like, damn, that 17-year-old is good. That is the next Naomi Girma. We are not
you
putting
were
pressure
right
on her, as Laura
about
says, but she's going to be good. She
sure
is good, but
her
she's going to
and
be good.
Emery too. Bella talked my ear off about Emery Adamas through the preseason. She said I think you were working on feature, right?
Yes, I was.
You were more than jazzed about her. So, you know, anyway, yeah, and nope, Laura said as much in when someone asked about getting Lou back, you know, just oh yeah, you talked about the longevity piece. Laura said it will never happen again. I don't think it will, personally.
Yeah.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, where are you going to watch all the away games for Seattle Reign FC this year?
Away games. Well, since Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, I was thinking of coming here if that's okay with you.
I think that makes a lot of sense. See y'all here.